Trey Gowdy pissed off after seeing what liberal trash said about him behind his back on national television. A former CIA official went on live TV and said that Representative Trey Gowdy, Republican of South Carolina, should have his A kicked for drilling the former CIA Director John Brennan during a House hearing. "Bite me, snowflake," unhinged Obama-loving filth. Gowdy pressed Brennan on whether he has seen any evidence of collusion or a connection between President Trump and Russian actors. Brennan acted like a pompous Obama-loving freak and said, "I don't do evidence." Brennan should have his A kicked for covering up for Obama, Hillary, and the far-left sons of bitches that are destroying our country. What a filthy, corrupt as hell. So Gowdy pressed further, and Brennan responded that he is aware of intelligence that revealed contact between Russians and Americans involved in the Trump campaign. Then prove it. Let's get this Russian bullcrap over with, for God's sakes. Brennan has nothing. The FBI has nothing. There is nothing, you filthy morons. So where does the CIA official go to spew his filth on CNN? The Clinton News Network, the worst source of any real information in the USA, baby. It's true. Mudd told CNN's Chris Cuomo that Gowdy does not understand the difference between intelligence and evidence. Chris Cuomo is a pathetic liberal bitch. Trey Gowdy ought to have his A kicked, Mudd said, adding that intelligence data only shows one side of an investigation. Well, let's see the one freaking side, you piles of liberal trash. Show us what you have, for God's sakes. Hell, let's see it all. The bullshit Obama and Hillary have done, you corrupt bastards. Absolutely correct. Actually, the language is pretty crass, but, you know, it's exactly how I feel.
Trump campaign, his testimony was forceful, but as you saw, it wasn't his job to develop evidence of collusion. It was to give intel, and he said as the time he left, he hadn't seen any proof of collusion. But the investigation must go on. Those are his words. Joining us,
notice they cut it at "haven't seen."
Phil Mudd. To those who do not want to believe there is any collusion, they say John Brennan just said it. There is no proof. They've been investigating this forever. There are leaks all over the place, and no evidence of actual collusion. This is a hoax. The president's right. Your response?
Boy, Chris, it's painful that you're the first person I speak with in the morning, but let me give you a clear picture
when you laugh,
of the answer to this.
I know I encourage him, because I think it's funny.
But when he turns it on you, then
it's
also Mudd will only be on the show after
this.
Chris, let's watch this over the next day or two, because Sean Spicer in the White House have consistently misportrayed what intelligence officials are saying. Let me give you a clear distinction between intelligence and investigations. The intel guys are going to get the intelligence. That is, for example, intercepts of Russian communications showing at most one half of the story, and more than likely significantly less than one half. They do not have visibility, that is, intel guys like the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, and the CIA Director, into the significant part of the investigation that's conducted by the FBI. Interviews of American citizens, looks into their travel, into their financial records. So, of course, the intel guys are going to say, I saw some smoke when Russian people talked about their interactions with the Americans, but there's no way you can look at one half of the conversation and draw a conclusion about collusion.
I don't know,
quick comment. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I hear you. I understand exactly what you're saying, and of course you're right. But it ends up just being frustrating to people listening, because it devolves into this debate over semantics. Intel versus evidence, and in fact it got a little heated with Congressman Trey Gowdy. So let me just play this for you and then you can respond. Watch this.
Did you have evidence of a connection between the Trump campaign, Russian state actors?
As I said, Mr. Gowdy, I don't do evidence.
I appreciate that you don't do evidence, Director Brennan. You and I both know what the word evidence means. It's a really simple question. Did evidence exist of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors at the time you learned of 2016 efforts?
I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that revealed contacts and interactions between Russian officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign.
See, Phil, that's what's so frustrating. Did collusion exist? That's the burning question that everybody wants answered. And then Brennan says, well, I know of contacts and communication.
Well, Trey Gowdy ought to have his ass kicked. He knows the difference between intelligence and evidence. Let me tell you something, Allison. If you're an American citizen and the National Security Agency collects intelligence, that is, intercepts of Russians who report what you've said, do you think it's fair to go to a court and say that's evidence that you did something wrong? That's why the FBI is going to take a year or more to investigate this, because the American citizens involved in this have a right to have evidence presented in a court beyond a conversation that a Russian official reports. In my world, this distinction is black and white. There's a hard line. I know it's frustrating for the American people, but I hope they don't want evidence to be perceived as something that a Russian official says, and that's it. You can be convicted on that.
Okay, you win. You win.
He does, and I'll tell you what, we're seeing it this morning, even here. People are saying, well, look, Brennan said he saw no proof. He did not say that. He said, I don't know. And that's a huge distinction. And while it may be frustrating, a lot of things in life are frustrating, Phil Mudd, especially when they're complex. And if you cheapen them, wind up distorting what they actually are. But at the end of the day, what do you make of the suggestion that I think is a little bit more forceful? There have been so many leaks. Everything we've learned from leaks thus far, and yet nothing about any real collusion. Why?
Well, I don't think there have been significant leaks related to investigation. Do we know a heck of a lot about FBI interviews of the American citizens involved in this? How much do we know about what they've said behind closed doors? Has anybody flipped? How much do we know in detail about financial transactions? As someone who's witnessed these investigations, I've seen embarrassing leaks, but they're not leaks that get at the heart of what the FBI is learning. That said, every time I see a door open here, whether it's General Flynn resigning, whether it's the FBI saying that they've opened an investigation, whether it's repeatedly intel officials, including the Director of National Intelligence and the CIA Director, saying that they saw substantial intelligence about contacts between Americans and the Russians, whether it's American officials saying that the President of the United States tried to get them to knock this down, every door that opens closes. And the walls around the President and the White House, I think, continue to get more and more tight. There's nothing that suggests there's no fire here to me.
Mudd, well argued. We will have to wait and see how Camerata digests that beatdown you just gave her on her own show.
Yes.
But always polite and doesn't make fun of Wong.
He certainly didn't say what he said about Trey Gowdy about you. That's for sure.
Not publicly.
Thank you, Phil Mudd.
Mudd, that's what he is, Mudd. He needs his ass whipping. That's what he needs. They have no evidence, and they're just continuing this story to detract from the real issues. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.